A very good hello to all of you. Thank you for being here on this very important Peace Day Live 2021 here in September. It's great to be here on the 21st. It's always such a pleasure. Jeremy, if you're out there, a big holler out to you, and thank you for staying so committed to Peace One Day. I'm a big fan of what you do and the entire team. Welcome to our panel discussion at this hour, Uniting for Peace. And the topic today is partnership with the United Nations Global Compact and what we can do. I've done many events with the Compact, and it's always great to be here as we talk about the topic of uniting for peace. And if for those of you who are not familiar with the Global Compact and what it focuses on, it's the idea of business and its crucial role in our societies across the world. So it's with great pleasure that I get to bring in three great leaders in the very idea of how business can lean in. So please welcome everybody, Angela Cretu, the CEO of Avon. And Avon, and I've met, well, you're now my second CEO, and it's great to see you, Angela, that I've met from Avon. And I cannot say enough about what they have done when it comes to understanding business's role in society. Antonio Nunez is the CEO of Nestle Colombia, and it's a great pleasure to be able to meet and speak with you, Antonio. In addition to that, Sanda Ojiambo, CEO and Executive Director of the United Nations Global Compact. This is, as you know, a very busy week for you, I am sure. I'm sitting here in New York, in Manhattan, and the week has begun with great fervor and energy. So it's great to have you as well, Sanda. I want to start with you, Sanda. And you heard my very brief description of what the Global Compact is, what it does. And as mentioned, I've had many great conversations in the old days when we used to be able to hug and shake hands during this great week in front of us. And it's more than a week, as we all know. To you, tell us, how is the UN Global Compact and the recent conversations you've had, Sanda, here, tell us about the corporate purpose and how corporations have stood up and continue to stand up during this time, and especially not only on our topic of Peace One Day, but also in a wider purview. Sanda?
Sure, great. And thank you so much for inviting me to join the excellent panelists. I'm really looking forward to hearing from them as well. And I agree with you. I wish it was better times when we could be in person and suddenly have this conversation face to face.
Well, Sanda, what I will say is this is a virtual hug, right? This is exactly what we're doing.
Right. Thank you. Got it. So, let me there's a couple of pointers that I wanted to bring into the discussion, and I'll just call them framing points before I talk about the Global Compact. Look, I think the first thing is that, business as usual is truly no longer an option. Businesses have to get engaged in societal transformation, in value creation. Businesses that are now successful and certainly sustainable on the longer term really take a much longer view than simply short-term profits and short-term, reporting to investors and boards. I think first is, that perspective on what business is, certainly in our view from the Global Compact, has shifted, and we continue to see more businesses shifting in this way. A second point that I think is very interesting, and here I just want to reference Edelman and their research that they've done. Over the last couple of years, we're in an era of increasing trust in business. So consumers, citizens, public institutions, regulators are seeing that business can do more and should do more. I'm not saying that business is right at the top of the 100% mark, but over time, businesses are being more trusted. And I think that over this last couple of months during the pandemic, and certainly looking at a couple of other social and economic issues, we are seeing businesses rise to the fore. So, when you talk about corporate purpose and stakeholder capitalism, we are seeing a clear convergence. It's not necessarily global. It's not yet running across all sectors, but we are seeing the fruits of better engagement around purpose, principles, and certainly profit. I think the ultimate imperative really is for businesses to have just positive outcomes for their consumers, for citizens, and for humanity as a whole. So, having said those comments and looking at the Global Compact, what we do is, as the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative and with about 14,000 companies in our membership, we really work with these businesses to see how they can embrace our 10 principles, which are in the areas of human rights, labor, the environment, and anti-corruption, and also get them to align their operations and their delivery of products and services with the Sustainable Development Goals. And our belief firmly is that with the two together, we can truly contribute not just to peace, but to a just society, to an equitable and an inclusive society as well. And I'll just cap it by saying underneath this all really comes in the question of leadership, moral and ethical leadership, and the importance of strong business leadership and strong governance around leadership to drive that forward. So really that's where I am. I don't think that the terms are in conflict. Purpose, purpose, principles, and profit can all go hand in hand, and stakeholder capitalism can actually be matched and met with purpose. But we have a long way to go, and that's our call to action and challenge and what we work towards at the Global Compact.
It's really exciting, Sonda. I remember when I was in business school, forgive me all three, when I was in business school, after I went to Citibank, save your exasperations, as I said earlier, for later. But one of the things that the dean sat down with us and said in the importance of business is, now it's your responsibility. And it's really great, Sonda, that you brought up these points, because now it is corporate, I say corporate America here in the United States, but corporations all around the world to step up. And peace is a big word. It doesn't have a lot of letters, but these are big letters that come together. And so to you, Angela, on this, there are many manifestations of the way corporations can focus on peace. And, I've talked about peace in these gatherings that, Peace One Day puts together with Jeremy many times. I've also done it outside of that with the UN in various contexts. It's a big word. And to you, Angela, how do you manifest that at Avon? How do you talk about peace? And, certainly there are different ways of doing it, whether we discuss peaceful societies, we can talk about equity and equality when it comes to gender and race. Tell us about how you talk about it.
So you're right, Richard, and Sandra said it so beautifully. Businesses should engage. Businesses are stakeholders of our community. And long are gone the times when a business would focus only on customer value proposition and shareholder value creation. We need to have this stakeholder, value in mind and give back more than what we take. This is what businesses should do. Businesses should be a force for good. And for 135 years, Avon has been more than a beauty company. It's been really a movement for well-being, understanding really that beauty is so much more than skin deep. You cannot talk about the color of a lipstick if there is no safety, if there is no well-being, if there is no equality. So ultimately beauty means peace. So with that keen understanding of, what's our mission, that goes beyond the beauty product transaction, and in our role, to promote well-being and safety and equality for women around the world, ultimately peace. We went really from championing safe and healthy lives for women to embracing sustainable and ethical practices. So what happens at Avon to create that value and support peace? We do it first through our networks and partners, and then creating strong relationships and alliances. Even an event like we have today, both with a partnership with the United Nations Global Compact, but as well with the Peace One Day, we are looking to create change, to inspire people and businesses to take a more active role in calling, for this awakening and back to our values as humanity and protect our planet and our people. Then we do it through our supply chain, maintaining human rights, through our suppliers, responsible sourcing, tackling carbon challenge. And the most important, and I think this is because businesses don't have an impersonal voice just because the corporate America released a statement out there that makes it true or makes it impactful. It's to our own people, the way we foster a culture in our own organizations, with our own employees, breeding genuine inclusion and tolerance, fighting against justice, creating employees resource groups, having really a speak out culture, creating really those protocols and policies to tackle violence, because violence starts at home, and we can support peace by inspiring our own people and encouraging them to take a stand against violence in their own community. And what's most important for Avon, we have 5 million representatives around the world, and this is such a powerful representation in all micro communities, in different cultures, different countries with very different situations. And we know they can be peace ambassadors. Through them, we have really the power to mobilize communities, to raise awareness, to really speak out against domestic violence. Altogether, we've donated $85 million against gender-based violence to support the hotlines, the shelters around the world, to really help those in need. So yes, the challenge, Richard, is really huge. But with individual change, from people to businesses to governments, one person at a time, one small step at a time, we really could create this tidal wave of change. So I'm extremely proud to be by your side to keep investing energy in this movement of ours.
Angela, we're more side by side. We're kind of locked arms together is what we are. And you said more than a beauty company, I would say beauty of the world, beauty of society. And you standing up to talk about peace is so important. Big word, but accessible. We don't need to see it as so distant. It's right next to us. And when you talk about gender violence, it is one of the most maddening topics for me as a journalist. When I first joined CNN 15 years ago, one of the first stories I did was based on how women and girls were enslaved. And that sort of violence became to me at that time maddening. And as a 7-year-old feminist, as I like to say, because that was, I was awakened 7 or 8 years ago, I'm this tall. The idea of peace and the way you've described it is accessible for all of us, and especially for men. And over to you, Antonio, on this very topic. When I bring up what you have done, and hailing from beautiful Colombia, and I wish I could be there, to be in the mountains and by the seas, to talk about what you have done and what you've stood up for at Nestle. How would you describe the accessibility in business to peace? And how do you talk about it?
Look, I think when you are operating in a country like Colombia, which is a country that is progressing towards peace, but still with a number of issues that are impacting our daily lives and our operations, you need to be sure that the peace and helping, supporting process to build up a peace are a fundamental part of your strategy. It's about really the foundations. It's not something you can easily imagine, an operation in a country where these foundations are not in place. So you have to engage yourself, you have to engage your company, you have to really move in this direction of creating alliances to really address this opportunity. Because the topic of the peace is a complex topic. Let's be honest, I mean, this is something that is not really something easy to fix. There are always many factors around, many stakeholders around. And for this reason, the solution has to come always from a wide alliance of all the stakeholders that can look into the issue from different angles and really deliver value for a common solution. We strongly believe that this is only something that can be addressed through this collaborative approach. And in this context, since 3 years ago, we have put in place in Colombia, specifically in one area of Colombia, in the north of Valle del Cauca, in the municipalities of Bugalagrande, Andalucía, and Tuluá, an initiative that we feel very proud of, an initiative that we call Community and Respect for Life. And this is an initiative where we are trying to translate to society the values and principles that have been rooted in the Nestlé culture from the very beginning. The Nestlé culture is a culture of respect, it's a culture of tolerance, it's a culture of dialogue. If we are able to really translate all these values, not only to our employees that are always receiving these messages, that are passionate about these messages, but if we are able to translate this to the communities where we are operating, we can really make a huge contribution to a peace process and a huge contribution to achieve a goal that at the end of the day, we are really, everybody in the organization supporting, we are really enthusiastic about its achievement. Probably later on I can give you some more details about how we are building up all this process, but I think in this first intervention, what I want to really highlight is this message of a company that is supporting the peace process by working together with a wider range of stakeholders, really assuring that we are there articulating the whole thing, putting oil in the machinery, helping in this sense to overcome the different hurdles that we can find in a road that is not always easy.
Fantastic, Antonio. And I expect more details because you know I'm going to ask for that. And I appreciate you offering that up in advance. Sanda, as my grandmother used to say, hogwash, which means business doesn't care about peace. They care about money. They care about the bottom line. They care about EBITDA. Tell me why, Sanda, businesses and those who are customers, whether it's B2B or B2C or B2G2C, would listen to the messages that come from, all respect my good friends. I appreciate what you said, Angela, Antonio. But why should I appreciate and believe what has been said already? Help me understand why it's not hogwash.
Yeah, no, thanks. And that's a really great question. I think it's very important to really reflect on where society's come and how business has evolved. You know, if you look at the challenges that we're facing today, it's been said a number of times that no one sector and no one entity can solve them. You know, look at the climate crisis, look at the inequality crisis, look at a lot of the issues that we're dealing with right now, look at the COVID pandemic. I think it's very clear that what we do need right now is a concerted effort towards multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder collaboration and cooperation. And the truth of the matter is, you know, a lot of people may want to put the principal responsibility onto government, but business itself will never succeed when the society around it is failing. So I think there's also a huge imperative for business to step up and play its part. You know, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, the framework that was articulated through the United Nations, the fact is the current SDGs call for a wide range of stakeholders to sit around the table, including business. So I think there's both a global imperative, but there's a real imperative. And I want to just repeat it again. Business truly cannot succeed where society around it is failing. And I think that therefore peace and sustainable business would definitely have to go hand in hand. I think it's really important for responsible businesses to also look at the societies within which they operate. Business does want stability, business wants predictability, and a lot of that, it rests on strong foundations of peace and, you know, credible, transparent, and just institutions. So I think there's a number of reasons, both driven by global requirements, but also internally for business on the longer term, that make it a true imperative for business to want to move beyond simply making profit. Because for business to be sustainable on the longer term, there's a lot more critical issues that come to play. And I do think my fellow panelists have spoken to that in a lot of depth from their respective business positions. I just want to highlight also, some of the work that we've done within the Global Compact most recently to demonstrate this increased awareness on the need for multi-stakeholder and multilateral collaboration. Last year, in the run-up to the General Assembly, we did a survey of about 60 business leaders around the world to ask them about their views. And this was a time when globally we're in the depths of the pandemic and a lot of fractured business relationships. And really the question here was, what do we think about the role of institutions? And responses that we got from over 1,300 CEOs was that it was really important for businesses to be more accountable, more inclusive, more transparent, and the businesses really needed to look a lot more at governance and what their longer term view on sustainable and responsible business was in order to continue to drive forward that profitability and obviously support the purpose element of business purpose. This resulted in a statement that we presented to the Secretary General that was truly a call for businesses to embrace a much broader view to doing business, a much broader view to looking at transformational governance, ethical leadership, and the imperative for more responsible business. So, we were able to do this within our network of very credible, responsible businesses. And I think it's a fair reflection of where business is going. So, Richard, I love my grandma. I know you love your grandma too. I think we need to tell grandmas that, no, I say that in jest, but the world is changing. And I think it's really important to look at what the new drivers for business imperative are at the moment.
What was your grandma's name?
My grandma's name was Veronica.
Veronica. Mine was Rose. And life is a rose if we decide to smell it, certainly. On that note, and I'm glad you brought that up, it's a very good thought, Sanda, and over to you, Angela. Other than the inquisitive Jeremy Gilley and our grandmothers, who inspires you and gives you the energy to think about peace in your business? Who is it that gives you the wherewithal and the oomph to think about peace in business? Because you don't get up every day. It's not what the board necessarily brings up on the agenda. The chair does not say, all right, Angela, let's talk about peace.
You would be surprised. We do discuss about peace, but I would start with this. I've had the chance with Avon in my last 22 years in this amazing company to work in very different countries, from Saudi Arabia to Africa to Central Eastern Europe, Russia, in New York as well. I worked for a couple of years. So in all these very different cultures, I found inspiration and drive and a deep sense of purpose in all the connections I created I built together by the side of women of the different social statuses, the different demographics. It's fascinating how much you can learn. I actually gained the humility and the deep understanding that there is no us and them. And with that learning, I understood that every time we would open that brochure to talk about beauty, we actually talked about safety. We talked about dignity. We talked about hopes. We talked about well-being. So not about the peptides in a certain skincare formula or what kind of mascara would I have tomorrow. It was always a profound discussion about life. And that gave me huge inspiration. Yes, and the overall compass of all my actions. Every day I've been by the side of this company, and I will continue beyond my professional career. Because with every gestures we do as leaders of the organizations or as moms in our families or members of our communities, is to leave a small legacy behind, to really create value with the members of our community. Peace truly starts at home. Many people think that peace happens only if some big guy somewhere settle on some war zone or war situation. 95% of violence happens in our own homes, schools, and community. And we keep talking about that. So it's our own role to create a better world for our children, for our businesses, for our communities. And in Avon's case, we understood that a better world for women is a better world for all. So I say this is where my inspiration is. in all women I met around the world, and I hope I will continue to meet going forward.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Angela, but who? Give me a name. Who inspires you?
Oh, I think let me see. Even the discussion that you told me about Rose, your grandmother, and what she said, and Veronica,
but you know what I mean in your life. But in your life.
Oh, I would say I have a Mariana from Romania. I have a Selma from Turkey. I have from Russia would be Natalia. I would have many of names I can tell. I can write a book of stories from the fascinating stories I've heard from women who overcome and in order to become stronger for their families and creating a better environment for themselves and others.
I can see Natalia.
My inspiration.
Yeah, I can see Natalia and all the rest immediately. So thank you for that. Antonio, you know I like to ask those sort of questions. To you, as a CEO that runs a great company, tell me about who has inspired you and why they inspired you to talk about peace.
When I look for inspiration, I look immediately to the communities where we are operating. I think it's really amazing to go to those places and to see the impact that a company like ours is creating in the community, is creating in the society. Every time you have the opportunity to talk with a farmer and you learn about how the family is growing thanks to the business that is developing together with us, immediately you feel a connection. Immediately you feel that your work is for sure to create every day a larger business, a business that is profitable for the stakeholders, for the shareholders, but at the same time, you realize how important is the value that we are creating for society at large. And this is, I think, an energy that at the end of the day drive our business model. We talk always about our strategic virtuous cycle. And this strategic virtuous cycle at the very core, has two names. The first one is people, and the second one is society. And most of the effort that we do in the company is really intended to address this equation of creating value at the same time for the society and the people, that we are creating value for our business, for our shareholders. This is really the driving force. And then the dialogue with society is opening up always the windows of opportunity. When we think about, I was referring before about the community where we are operating, this area of the north of Valle del Cauca in Colombia, Bugalagrande, Andalucía, Tuluá. In this area, we are confronted with a situation of high levels of criminality. This is the type of violence that we see almost every day. People being killed, social leaders being persecuted, in a moment in time, human rights not being respected. You can't stay aside of all this. You need really to say, well, I'm in this community, I'm part of this society, and I need to take action. So you start engaging, you start dialoguing with all the people that you have around us, and you immediately identify that there are a lot of people sharing the same goals, sharing the same objectives. So immediately you start creating alliances that help us to articulate an action plan that at the end of the day transform a willingness, a wish into actions. And this is something that really is energizing. It's a kind of self-energizing process. As far as you progress, more energy you get to keep progressing and to keep overcoming the hurdles. And then you identify that really around you, there are a lot of people really looking for the same goals. It's amazing. I think sometimes when you are confronted with a complex problem, you imagine that the solution is something that is going to come from far away. Not at all. Sometimes it's just next door that you have people that have been working for many years, for instance, on analyzing, understanding the reasons of violence. And not just from an academic point of view. They have been able to develop methodologies that have proven successfully at when you try really to transform this into positive actions. So at the end of the day, this engagement, this capacity to come together, this ability to really align people behind the common goals is really something that energizes me and energizes the whole organization that works with me.
Well, I want all of you, and I know that you've already done it, as well as other organizations as they consider this, Antonio, to go long. Unfortunately, we must go short in the remaining 4 minutes that we have in front of us. And so I would like, if you can, to embrace brevity as we make it to the finish line here, because there's so much good stuff that you've said already. Antonio, hay un frase que usted usa sobre el sujeto de paz in negocio. Is there a phrase that you use commonly in business about peace? Give us that phrase in Spanish first, and then translate it to us very quickly.
Look, if I have to give the phrase in Spanish, I would say, nuestro principal objetivo es construir comunidades seguras y basadas en el respeto. Our main target is to build up communities which day after day, they are more secure and where respect in the community is the name of the game.
Perfect. Angela. No more Spanish phrases. Don't worry, Angela. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I'm going to say something in Spanish. That will not be good.
But please tell us, what is that headline that you would say about peace that if you were to share it with another CEO, as Antonio did, what would it be in a language that you choose, and then translate it for us?
Și tu poți contribui în întreținerea păcii în jurul lumii. And I wanted to, and in English would be, you, each and every one of you can contribute to nurture and sustain peace around the world.
And the language that you selected, was that Portuguese?
It was Romanian, but close.
Romanian. I was okay. Fantastic. And I'm going to ask you the same question, Sanda. Tell us which language you choose. Give us that one headline that you would say to other CEOs, and what does it mean?
Look, Richard, it's a fantastic question. My grandma would have answered in Kiswahili, but I'm going to answer to you in English because I think I want to be sure that I can articulate it well and not put grandma to shame.
Yeah, but give us the voice of Veronica for a moment in Swahili, and then translate it for us.
So Veronica would have said, ni lazima tuwe pamoja na tukae na furaha. So that's in Swahili. We must be together and live in peace and harmony. But what I do want to say really is a reflection of Kofi Annan. And when he founded the Global Compact in the year 2000, spoke about putting a human face to the global market. And I think that's really important. It's about business, embracing things that are important for humanity, not simply just for profitability, and suddenly looking now into broader issues around how we contribute to key global issues, as we talked about, inequalities, the climate crisis, the COVID pandemic. And just going back to your initial question, stakeholder capitalism and purpose, principles, and profit can truly coexist together.
Okay, 60 seconds. I'm going to ask you to give me one word to encourage those in the workplace to consider peace. So what would that word be? I tell you what, I'll give you a full sentence. You can use one sentence, but no more in the 60 seconds I've got. Sanda, what would you say? What's the one sentence to those in the workplace that want to consider peace?
It starts with you.
Fantastic. Angela.
Stand up, speak out.
And Antonio.
You can make it happen.
And all of you have made it happen. Thank you for this panel discussion, Uniting for Peace, as we look with the idea and the purpose of the Global Compact when we think of, again, one of the key goals, and that is when we look at the SDGs, goal number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Thank you all three. What a great conversation. Thank you all who have been here for this gathering and this discussion with all three of these great thinkers. Enjoy the rest of today.